The video call with my daughter Amanda ended, her bright, smiling face disappearing from the screen. My grandson Ethan sat beside me on the couch, his small hands still resting on the laptop's edge. For a moment, neither of us moved. The room felt too quiet, like the air itself was, holding its breath. Then Ethan turned to me. His eyes were wide, pupils dilated in a way that made him look younger than hissed in years. His voice came out as barely a whisper, trembling at the edges. "Grandma," he said, that wasn't Mom. Before we get into what happened, please subscribe to the channel and tell me where you're watching from in the comments. And I really want to hear your thoughts and opinions on this story as it unfolds. My name is Margaret. I'm 68 years old, and until that moment, sitting on my worn floral couch with my grandson's words, hanging in the air like poison. I thought I had the perfect life. My daughter Amanda and her family live just 10 minutes away in a lovely colonial with a blue door and window boxes full of petunias. It was my greatest pride. I'd raised her alone after her father died, when she was 7. Just the two of us, against the world. And now she had everything I'd dreamed for her. Her husband, Brian, was the kind of man every mother dreams of for her daughter. Attentive, successful in his IT job, working from home long before it became common, and utterly devoted to Amanda. And my grandson, Ethan. He fixed my computer when it froze. He helped me set up my smartphone. He brought me soup when I had the flu last winter, homemade, with fresh herbs from their garden. I saw them all the time. Sunday dinners, Ethan's soccer games, impromptu coffee visits. Brian was, for lack of a better word, flawless. I'd told Amanda once, maybe 5 years ago, "You found a good one, sweetheart. Hold on to him." She'd laughed and kissed Brian's cheek. "I know, Mom. I know." So when Amanda told me she had to go to Singapore for a 2-month project, I felt that familiar pang of sadness, the ache of missing her already, but mostly, I felt pride swelling in my chest. "It's a huge opportunity, Mom," she'd said, her face beaming as we sat at my kitchen table 3 months ago. "I'll be leading the whole Asia-Pacific rollout. It's scary, but it's everything I've been working toward. And I'll be back before you know it." I'd hugged her tight, breathing in her perfume, that light floral scent she'd worn since college. "I'm so proud of you, honey." We spoke every week after she left. Brian, ever the perfect husband, would set up the laptop form if I was at their house, adjusting the camera angle, making sure the lighting was good. Or he'd help me connect from my own computer, patient as I fumbled with passwords I could never quite remember. Amanda always looked happy on those calls, maybe a little tired, dark circles under her eyes that even the screen couldn't hide, but happy. "Projects are going well," she'd say, smiling that smile I loved. The one that crinkled the corners of her eyes, just like her fathers used to. "The team here is amazing. Lots of late nights, but we're making progress." I remember thinking she looked thinner. "Are you eating enough, sweetheart?" I'd asked during one call, maybe a month in. She'd laughed, but it sounded strange, high-pitched, forced. Just, "Busy, Mom. You know how it is. I'll gain it all back when I come home, and you make me your pot roast." Brian had me over for dinner every week, just the 3 of us. Him, me, and Ethan. He wanted to make sure I wasn't lonely, he said. He was so thoughtful. One evening, about 6 weeks into Amanda's trip, I arrived to find the table already set, candles lit, classical. music playing softly from the smart speaker in the corner. "I picked up some tea for you, Margaret," he said, holding up a box of Earl Grey as I hung my coat in the hallway. The house smelled like roasting chicken and rosemary. "I know you like it." I paused, looking at the box in his hands. Something felt off. A small, discordant note in an otherwise perfect melody. "Oh, that's thoughtful, Brian," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "But Amanda is the mint tea drinker. Not me. I'm just fine with water." He laughed it off, setting the box on the counter with a casual shrug. Right. My mistake. Too much work on my brain. These deadlines are killing me. He turned back to the stove, stirring something in a pot. It was a small thing. A tiny, insignificant slip. Anyone could. Forget a detail like that. I forgot things all the time. But it nagged at me as I sat down at the dinner table. Brian had been married to Amanda for 12 years. 12 years of watching her drink mint tea every single morning. Every single night before bed. She was obsessive about it. It washer thing. Earl Grey was what I drank. Had drunk. Years ago, before I switched to just water because of the caffeine keeping me up at night. I pushed the thought away. I was being paranoid. Old age making me suspicious of nothing. Brian was perfect. He was just stressed. While Brian cooked, I watched Ethan at the kitchen counter, hunched over his laptop. He wasn't playing Minecraft or watching YouTube, videos like other 10-year-olds. He was writing lines of code, green text scrolling across a black screen, his small fingers flying across the keyboard with a speed that made me dizzy. "It's for the coding club at school, Grandma," he'd explained to me weeks ago when I'd first asked what he was doing. His voice had been proud, excited. Dad taught me most of it. "I'm building a game where you have to solve puzzles to escape a maze." He had Brian's talent for tech, that much was clear. A talent I was about to become desperately, painfully grateful for. That weekend, Ethan stayed with me. Brian dropped him off on Friday evening, looking harried and exhausted, his eyes bloodshot and his hair uncombed. "I've got a massive deadline," he explained, kissing Ethan's forehead. "I need total quiet to focus. You don't mind, do you, Margaret?" "Of course not," I said, ruffling Ethan's hair. "We'll have a great time. Movie night and pancakes in the morning." Brian smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're a lifesaver." Saturday afternoon, I reminded Ethan as we folded laundry together in my living room, the warm scent of detergent filling the air. "It's your video call day with Mom." His face lit up immediately, the way only a child's can when they think of someone they love. "Can we call her now?" Right on cue, at exactly 3 p.m., the call came through on my laptop. I'd set it up on the coffee table, angling it so we could both sit on the couch and be in frame. Ethan pressed the accept button, his knee bouncing with excitement. Amanda's face filled the screen. That bright, beautiful smile. Her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Makeup perfect. "Hey, sweetie." "Hey, Mom." Her voice was cheerful, warm, exactly as I remembered. "Hi, Mom," Ethan practically shouted, leaning forward. "I got an A on my science project. And I finished the maze game I was building. Dad helped me debug the final level." "That's wonderful, honey," Amanda said, but her smile seemed to freeze for just a split second. A digital hiccup that made her face look like a paused video frame. Then it was back, fluid and normal. We talked about school, about the weather, about Ethan's upcoming soccer tournament. Amanda asked about my garden, about whether the tomatoes were coming in yet. Everything felt normal. Almost. But something felt off. Wrong. Like a song played in the wrong key. The connection seemed to lag, just for a split second here and there. A digital hiccup that made her smile freeze mid-expression. I told myself it was just the internet. International calls were always spotty. But my chest felt tight. Then Amanda asked, her voice bright and casual, "Ethan, your birthday is coming up soon, isn't it? What do you want this year?" I frowned. The room suddenly felt cold. My blood went instantly. Cold. Ice flooding through my veins like someone had opened a tap. His birthday was last week. I was there. I'd bought the cake from the bakery. Chocolate with vanilla frosting. His favorite. I'd watched him blow out 10 candles. Brian had been there. He'd taken photos. He'd posted them on Facebook with the caption, "Double." Digits! So proud of this kid. Yeah, Mom, Ethan said slowly, his voice small and confused. He glanced at me, his eyebrows furrowed. Soon. "And how's Butter doing?" Amanda asked, tilting her head slightly. "Is he still chewing up your socks?" Ethan's face went pale. "Butter?" he peated, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, his name is Peanut. You named him. You said..." He looked like a little peanut when we got him from the shelter. There was a pause. A beat too long. Then Amanda laughed, but it sounded strained, high-pitched, like someone had pulled a string. Too tight. "Oh, silly me. Look at me. I'm so tired my brain is fried. Too many late nights." "Of course, Peanut. How could I forget? Our little Peanut?" She laughed again, but it echoed wrong. Tinny and artificial through the speakers. The call ended soon after. Amanda blew us a kiss. "Love you both so much. Talk next week." The screen went black. I sat there, staring at the blank screen, my reflection staring back at me in the dark glass. I closed the laptop slowly, my hands trembling. The silence in the room felt heavy, suffocating, like a weight pressing down on my chest. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking. Each second felt too loud. That's when Ethan turned to me. His face was pale, drained of color. His eyes were too wide, too old for a 10-year-old boy. He looked like he'd seen something terrible, something he couldn't unsee. And he whispered those words. Those 5 words that changed everything. Grandma. That wasn't Mom. A child's words. Simple. Direct. Unburdened by the polite denials. Adults build around themselves like armor. Children see the truth, because they haven't learned to ignore it yet. That wasn't Mom. It echoed in my head all night. I lay in bed staring at the south ceiling, listening to the house creak and settle around me. Ethan was asleep in the guest room, but I could hear him tossing and turning through the thin walls. Neither of us could rest. And suddenly, all the small wrong things clicked into place like puzzle pieces I'd been ignoring, shoving under the couch, hoping they'd disappear. The way Brian always bought Earl Grey tea, never mint. Not once in 6 weeks had I seen mint tea in their house. The way the video feed always glitched, just for a second, in the exact same way. Always right when Amanda smiled or laughed. Always. That same frozen frame. That same digital stutter. The time just 2 weeks ago when Brian had mentioned the time difference with Singapore while we were having dinner. It's tough, coordinating calls, he'd said, cutting into his chicken. 12-hour difference. When it's morning here, it's night there. I'm a former geography teacher. I taught world time zones for 30 years. Singapore is 13 hours ahead, not 12. Must be daylight savings, he'd mumbled when I'd gently corrected him, not meeting my eyes. Singapore doesn't observe daylight savings. It never has. And then there was the call 3 weeks ago when Amanda had mentioned feeling trapped by the workload. She'd said it with strange emphasis, staring directly at the camera. I just wish I could walk out the door, you know? Just leave. But I can't. I thought she meant the project. But what if she'd meant it? Literally? Fear is a powerful motivator. It makes you do things you'd never normally do. Things that feel crazy, even as you're doing them. The next morning, Sunday, I told Ethan I needed to run an errand. Dropped him at my neighbor's house. Just for an hour, sweetie. Then I drove to their house. Amanda and Brian's house with the blue door and the petunias. I didn't call ahead. I didn't text. I just showed up. My heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it might break through. The house was quiet when I pulled into the driveway. Too quiet. No music drifting from the open windows. No sounds of life. Just a sterile, waiting silence that made my skin crawl. I rang the doorbell. Once. Twice. Finally, Brian answered, and he looked terrible. His eyes were rimmed and bloodshot. His hair was greasy, uncombed. He was wearing the same shirt he'd had on Friday night when he dropped Ethan off. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Margaret! His voice was too loud, too surprised. What a surprise! I was just in a deep focus state. Big deadline, you know. I've got code running and I can't interrupt it. I forced myself to smile, to act normal, even though every instinct was screaming at me to run. I'm so sorry to bother you, Brian. I just realized Amanda forgot her favorite winter coat when she left. With the weather turning, I thought I'd grab it and ship it to her. I know how cold those hotel air conditioners can be. It was a terrible lie. It wasn't even cold in Singapore. It's tropical. Year-round heat. But Brian didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he did, because his jaw tightened, a muscle twitching beneath the skin. He hesitated. For 3 long seconds, he just stared at me, his eyes calculating, weighing something I couldn't see. Then he stepped aside. It's in the bedroom closet, I think. You know where. It is. I walked past him and the house felt wrong. The air was stale, like no one had opened a window in weeks. There were dishes piled in the sink, something I'd never seen in Amanda's house. She was meticulous about cleaning. The living room was dark, curtains drawn. I climbed the stairs to the bedroom, my legs shaking with every step. The door was open. The bed was unmade, sheets tangled. I walked to the closet and opened it, and the smell of Amanda's perfume hit me like a physical blow. That light floral scent. It was overwhelming, suffocating. I almost broke down right there. I pushed through her hanging clothes, dresses and blouses I'd seen, her wear 100 times, my hands trembling so badly I could barely function. At the back of the closet, behind a row of shoes, she kept a small lockbox. I'd seen her use it before, years ago, for important documents, birth certificates, passports. The lockbox was open, not locked, just sitting there, lid ajar. I lifted the lid, And inside, nestled in the velvet lining, was Amanda's passport, the burgundy cover, her photo staring up at me, and next to it, her smartphone, the battery pulled out, sitting separately, like a dissected insect. My vision blurred. My hands started shaking so violently I almost dropped the passport. You don't go to Singapore for 2 months without your passport. You can't. It's impossible. You don't leave your phone behind. Not in this century. Not unless someone makes you. I shoved them into my purse, my fingers fumbling, clumsy with fear. I needed to leave. Now, immediately, before Brian came upstairs, before he realized what I'd found. As I backed out of the bedroom, my elbow bumped into his desk in the hallway, the one he used as his home office setup. A pile of mail and folders stacked high on the corner teetered, and a single file folder slid open, papers scattered across the floor. I bent down quickly to pick them up, to put everything back, to leave no trace. And that's when I saw the letterhead. Global Fidelity Life Insurance. My hands froze. I picked up the paper, my eyes scanning the text. A new policy. Taken out 3 months ago. Right before Amanda left. For a sum that made me physically sick. $500,000. The beneficiary, listed in clear black type. Brian Mitchell. I folded the paper and shoved it into my purse with the passport and phone. Then I stood up, my legs barely holding me, and walked. Down the stairs as normally as I could manage. Brian was in the kitchen, standing at the counter, making a smoothie. The blender was running, loud and violent, crushing ice. He looked up as I appeared. Find it? No, I lied, my voice surprisingly steady. Must have taken it with her after all. My memory isn't what it used to be. He smiled, but it was cold. Empty. No worries, Margaret. Drive. Safe. I walked to my car, forcing myself not to run. I got in, started the engine, and drove away. I watched him in the rearview mirror, standing in the doorway, watching me leave. I drove straight home. I didn't stop. I didn't call the police. What would I say? My son-in-law is perfect, but I found my daughter's passport and a new insurance policy? They'd think I was a senile old woman having paranoid delusions. They'd pat my hand and tell me to go home and rest. I had one person who believed me, Ethan. When I picked him up from my neighbor's house, he took one look at it, my face, and knew something was wrong. Grandma? We need to talk, sweetheart. At home. Back at my house, I sat him down at the kitchen table. I pulled out the passport, the phone, the insurance policy. I laid them out like evidence in a trial. His face went white. I don't understand, he whispered. Why would Dad have these? I don't know, but I need to show you something else. I had, by some miracle, by some instinct I didn't understand at the time, recorded the last video call. Just to keep, in case I miss her. I'd told Brian when he'd helped me set up the recording. Feature weeks ago. Now I understood. Something deep inside me had known, had been preparing. I showed Ethan the recording. Listen to it, Ethan, not just watch. Listen carefully. He put on his headphones, his face serious, older than his years. He played it back once, then again. Then a third time, his fingers, moving across the timeline, isolating specific moments. Then he stopped. His face had gone completely white. Right here, he said, his voice shaking. He pointed to the moment the video glitched. when Amanda's smile froze. That sound, that static. It's not a bad internet connection, Grandma. He unplugged his headphones and played it through my laptop. Speakers. I heard it then, a faint, high-pitched whine, almost imperceptible. But there, it sounds like the startup tone for Dad's voice modulator. Software, Ethan said, his voice hollow. He uses it for his online games sometimes, to sound different, to sound like other people. My stomach dropped. The room tilted. Voice modulator? Ethan's fingers were already flying across his own laptop, pulling it from his backpack. He's always on his computer. He thinks I don't see what he's doing. But I do. I've seen the programs he runs. He typed in a web address, his hands shaking. A website flashed onto the screen. globalstarcasino.onlinepoker. Virtual slot. A balance displayed in red at the top of the page. A resource. Negative balance with so many zeros, it made me dizzy. Negative $87,000. He's been gambling, Ethan whispered, for months, maybe longer. He wasn't just working in that home office. He was losing money. Massive amounts of money. Money they didn't have. And that insurance policy. $500,000. Enough to cover his debts and then some. He needed that money. He needed Amanda to be gone. He needed her to die. Oh my God, I breathed. Oh my God, Ethan. But Ethan wasn't done. His face was in grim determination. No. Longer a child, but something harder. Something forged by necessity. Dad's network, he said quietly. He set up the whole house. The security system. The cameras. The smart home integration. He taught me how it all works. He showed meth back doors in case of emergencies. He thought he was teaching me. He didn't realize. His voice trailed off as he typed commands I didn't understand, scrolling across the screen. Then a new window opened. A grainy, dark image. A security camera feed. The basement cam, Ethan whispered. He installed it years ago. He said it was for security in case someone broke in through the basement window. He keeps it on all the time. The image was dark, lit only by a dim bulb somewhere off-screen. But in the corner, on what looked like a camping cot, was a shape. A person. A woman with long matted hair covering her face. As we watched, the woman shifted. Slowly, painfully, she looked up, directly at the camera, as if she could feel us watching her. It was Amanda, my daughter, my baby girl. She was thin. So thin her cheekbones jutted out sharply. Her skin was pale, almost gray. Her eyes were sunken, dark circles like bruises. But it was her. It was unmistakably her. My daughter was in the basement. She'd been there this whole time, 10 minutes away from me. And I hadn't known. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My vision tunneled until all I could see was her face on that screen, staring at the camera. Ethan's voice cut through the fog. Grandma. His hand on my arm, grounding me. Grandma, he's hurting her. And he's using an AI face filter on the video calls. He's changing her voice with the modulator. He's making her look healthy, making her say things. He was forcing her to perform for us, to pretend everything was fine, to smile and wave and talk about work projects that didn't exist. And we'd believed it. I'd believed it.
The birthday, Ethan said, his voice cracking. The dog's name.
Those weren't mistakes. She was trying to tell us. She was giving us clues. She knew we'd notice eventually. She'd been screaming for help in the only way she could, and it had taken us 6 weeks to hear her. I looked at my grandson, 15-year-old boy who just hacked into his father's security system and found his mother imprisoned in their basement. His hands were shaking. His face was wet with tears he didn't bother to wipe away. "We have to call the police," I said, reaching for my phone. "No." Ethan grabbed my wrist. "He'll hear them coming. The house has audio sensors, motion detectors. If police cars pull up, alarms will go off on his phone. He'll know. And he couldn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Then what do we do?" Ethan's eyes met mine. They were hard, determined, terrifying in a child. We trick him. We get him to confess. We record it. Then call the police with proof he can't deny. How? I have a plan, Grandma. But you have to be brave. Brave. I had to be brave for Amanda. For my daughter who was starving in a basement while her husband pretended she was on a business trip, while he collected insurance money to pay off gambling debts, while he used technology to create a ghost. Tell me what to do. Ethan opened his laptop. I can access the basement audio feed. I can hear everything that's said down there. And I can mirror it too. Any device, including Dad's smart speakers. His fingers flew across the keyboard. You go back to the house. You confront him. You get him to admit what he did. I'll be listening. The second he confesses, I'll trigger the recording to play through every speaker in the house. His own words, his own threats to Mom. Then I call the police and send them everything. It was insane. It was dangerous. It could get me killed, but it might save Amanda. Okay, I said, let's do it. I drove back to that house for the second time that day. My hands were steady on the wheel now. Fear had transformed into something else. Something colder, more focused. Purpose. I didn't knock this time. I used my emergency key, the one Amanda had given me years ago. Just in case, Mom. The door swung open. Brian was in the kitchen, back to me, blending another smoothie. The sound was violent, aggressive. He didn't hear me come in. I walked up behind him and I threw the passport on the counter. It skidded across the granite and hit the blender base with a thud. He spun around, eyes wide. The blender kept running, screaming. "Margaret, what are you—" I pulled out the insurance policy next, slammed it down beside the passport. "You forgot to hide these, Brian." His face went blank, completely empty. The mask of the perfect husband disintegrated in an instant, revealing something cold and reptilian underneath. "You shouldn't have done that, Margaret." His voice was flat, dead. "Where is she, Brian? Where is my daughter?" "She's in Singapore." He said it calmly, easily, like he'd rehearsed it. "Just like she told you." "Her passport is right here," I shouted, slamming my hand on the days counter. "She can't be in Singapore without her passport, you monster." Something flickered in his eyes. Calculation. He took a step toward me. "You need to leave, Margaret. You're confused. You're old. You're seeing things that aren't there." I saw the camera feed, Brian. I saw her. In the basement. He froze. For 1 second, genuine surprise crossed his face. Then, rage. Pure, undiluted rage. He lunged for me. His hand closed around my arm, fingers digging in, like claws. And he yanked me away from the door, away from escape. "You stupid old woman," he hissed, his face inches from mine. I could smell coffee on his breath, sour and stale. "There's no proof. It's your word against mine. Who are they going to believe? The grieving husband or the senile grandmother?" He shoved me, hard. I stumbled backward, my hip hitting the edge of the counter, pain exploding through my side. I hit the wall, the impact knocking the breath from my lungs. And in that exact second, a voice echoed through the house. Not my voice. Not his. It was Brian's voice, cold and menacing, coming from every smart speaker in every room. "Listen to me, Amanda. From now on, you talk to your mother. You. Talk to Ethan. You act healthy. You act normal. You smile." Brian's face went white. He looked at the Alexa speaker on the time, counter, at the Google Home in the living room, at the smart displays throughout the house. His own voice surrounded him. "If you say one wrong word, one little hint that something's wrong, Ethan is next. Do you understand me, Amanda? I will hurt our son. I will make him disappear too. So you smile, and you lie, and you pray I don't get tired of keeping you alive." It was the recording, the audio from the basement. My grandson, my brilliant, brave 10-year-old grandson, had pulled it from the two security system archives and broadcast it through Brian's own smart home network. Brian's own words, his own threats, playing on a loop, undeniable. He spun to face me, and for a moment, I thought he might actually kill me right there. His hands were shaking. His face was twisted with something inhuman. "You," he breathed. "How did you?" Then it hit him. I saw it in his eyes. The realization. The understanding. "Ethan," he whispered. "Ethan did this. His own son. The boy he'd taught to code. The boy he'd shown every backdoor in the system. His own son had just destroyed him using the tools he'd provided." The sound of the front door bursting open was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. Police shouting, "Hands up, get on the ground." Brian's face crumpled, not in fear, in grief. He looked at me and his eyes were wet. "He was my son," he whispered. "He was," I said quietly, "before you became a monster." They cuffed him, read him his rights, and as they dragged him past me, he didn't look angry anymore, just broken, empty. They found Amanda in the basement within minutes. Paramedics rushed down the stairs with equipment, with IV bags, with blankets. Tried to follow, but they wouldn't let me. "Ma'am, please, let us work." I stood in the living room, surrounded by police officers taking statements, taking photos, cataloging evidence. The house that had looked so perfect from the outside was now a crime scene. They brought her up on a stretcher 20 minutes later. She was unconscious, an oxygen mask over her face, IV lines already in her arms. She looked so small, so fragile. But she was breathing. She was alive. "Is she going to be okay?" I asked the paramedic. She's dehydrated and malnourished. Possible infections. But she's stable. We're taking her to County General. I rode in my car behind the ambulance, following the flashing lights. Ethan sat beside me, silent, staring out the window. I reached over and took his hand. It was cold, small, but he squeezed back. You saved her, I said. We saved her, he corrected quietly. Together. The trial wasn't for another 6 months. I won't go into details. The evidence was overwhelming. The audio recordings, the security, footage, the insurance policy. Brian's lawyer tried to argue. Temporary insanity, gambling addiction, but it didn't matter. He was sentenced to 30 years. No parole. But that's not the scene that stays with me. The trial was just paperwork, just formality. The scene that matters happened 2 days after the rescue. In the hospital, room 314. The smell of antiseptic and the sound of machines beeping steadily, monitoring her vitals. I've been sitting by Amanda's bed for hours, holding her hand, watching her chest rise and fall. They'd said she'd wake up soon. The sedatives were wearing off. I just had to wait. Ethan was beside me, his laptop open, working on some coding project. Or pretending to. I think he just needed something to do. With his hands. Something normal. Around noon, Amanda's eyes fluttered. Once. Twice. Then they opened. Hazy at first, confused, her pupils trying to focus. Then they found me. Mom? Her voice was barely a whisper, dry, cracked. It was her voice. Not the filtered, cheerful voice from the video calls. Not the AI-generated performance. Just her. Just my daughter. I'm here, sweetheart, I said, tears streaming down my face. I'm right here. You're safe now. You're safe. Ethan stood up slowly. He stepped forward, and Amanda's eyes shifted to him. Recognition flooded her face. She tried to speak, but couldn't. Her hand reached out, trembling. He took it. Hi, Mom, he said softly. Then he reached for the deal. Thermos he'd brought from home. The one he'd filled that morning at my house. He poured a steaming cup, carefully, the scent filling the room. Sterile hospital room. Mint. Fresh mint tea. I helped Amanda sit up, adjusting the pillows behind her. Ethan held the cup to her lips. She took a small sip, then another. Her eyes closed. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Real mint tea, she whispered. Her voice broke on the last word. Not Earl Grey. Mint. Someone remembered. And I knew in that moment she was back. She was really back. Not the woman in the video calls. Not the prisoner in the basement. My daughter. The woman who drank mint tea every morning. Who knew her. Son's birthday. Who named her dog Peanut. The details mattered. The small things. They were the difference between life and death. Between truth and performance. My grandson's digital skills had saved her. The coding he'd learned from his father turned against him. But it was the analog things that had started it all. The tea, the birthday, a grandmother's instinct that something was wrong. Brian's plan was nearly perfect. He'd thought of everything. The AI filter, the voice modulator, the gambling debt motive disguised as a business trip. But he'd underestimated two things: a 10-year-old boy who paid attention, and a 68-year-old grandmother who knew her daughter drank mint tea, not Earl Grey. Sometimes the smallest details are the ones that save lives. Amanda recovered slowly. Physically, first. They kept her in the hospital for 2 weeks. Rehydration, nutrition, physical therapy to rebuild muscle she'd lost. Then the psychological recovery began. Therapy, PTSD treatment, learning to sleep without nightmares. She moved in with me for 6 months. She couldn't go back to that house. It was sold eventually, the proceeds going to her recovery and Ethan's college fund. They bought a small apartment across town. A fresh start. Ethan struggled. Of course he did. He'd betrayed his father to save his mother. That's a choice no child should have to make. He saw a therapist twice a week. He stopped coding for a while, couldn't bear to look at a computer. But slowly, with time, he came back to it. Now he says he wants to work in cybersecurity, to help people, to use technology to catch bad guys, not become one. Sometimes I think about Brian, about how he sat in my living room and helped me with my computer, how he brought me soup when I was sick, how he seemed so perfect, and I wonder how much of it was real. Was any of it real? Or was it always performance? I don't have an answer. I'm not sure there is one. People are complicated. They can be kind and monstrous at the same time. But I know this. I trust my instincts now. When something feels wrong, I don't ignore it. I don't make excuses. I pay attention to the small things, the details that don't add up. If you were in my position, what do you think would have been the first sign that tipped you off? The tea? The birthday? The time? Zone mistake. Where would you have made a different decision? Would you have gone to the police immediately? Or would you have investigated first, knowing they might not believe you? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about paying attention to the details in your own life, please show your support with a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing that sometimes grandmothers and grandsons can save the day.